There is such a lot to discuss on the show this evening. Tom Flanagan, that'll be during the Rumble. But let's begin with this issue. Now, this photograph here, it's a little boy, 6 years old. Now, think about that for a while. If you have children, you will know what that means. Not only is he 6, but his parents began to treat him like a little girl some time ago, probably 2, 3, 4 years old. In other words, before he could speak properly, could read and write in a genuine sense, was in any way aware of gender, sex, or sexuality, his mother and his father decided that he was born into the wrong gender, the wrong body, and took him to a doctor who confirmed or led their suspicions. This was not a family doctor, by the way, but someone who specializes in gender identity issues. Now, this is extremely significant. Please listen. If you set yourself up as a specialist in an area, you have to prove and maintain that that area does exist. Otherwise, frankly, you're out of a job. Your livelihood, your reputation, your obsession simply evaporate, disappear. If you speak to family doctors, to frontline medics, they're extremely cynical, skeptical about all of this. They don't really think it happens. They'll try to move away from the issue and hand it to, yes, a specialist who will seldom tell people that they are wrong, that they need care, compassion, and counseling, but they are not in the wrong body, just need some loving but firm and resolute help. If an adult wants surgery on their own dime, well, so be it. I don't approve, I don't completely understand, but it's not my place or role to tell them what to do. No public funding, no special privileges, but the freedom to do what they want with their own body. In this case, however, there is parental and medical abuse on display in abundance. The reasons the parents have given for their son being a girl are that he rejected traditionally masculine toys and then wanted to wear a dress. One has to wonder who initiated all of this, of course, in that tiny children are incredibly malleable and vulnerable. It's why pedophiles often get away with their vile crimes, why child abuse is so horrible and repugnant. It could well be that the boy didn't like his toys. So what? The role of a parent is to guide, guard, form the child, not to surrender to his every whim. And in this case, one so common, really, and so banal. Kids want to dress as Batman and jump from windows and fly. You tell them not to do it. Kids want to play with dangerous things, put themselves at risk. You tell them not to do it. Teenagers, well, at that level, frankly, all sorts of confusion is possible. More ambiguity because they're older, but babies who still wait for Santa Claus to come, look for the Easter Bunny, have no sense of reality or truth. The parents in this case, they're beyond my disdain and contempt. I would like to see the doctor as well investigated. Maybe the children taken away from this family. This child has no female genitalia, is a healthy little boy. He may have some confusion, but that is to be helped and eased, not encouraged and affirmed. God knows what he will face in years to come. Agonizing surgery, unhappiness, attempted suicide, all because his parents, who are now devouring media interviews like a starving glutton, have a fetish. So you heard the monologue. This is an extremely important subject here because there's a growing campaign to normalize this sort of issue. If you're an adult, what you decide to do, as I said in the monologue, with your own money, with your own body, that is up to you. I may have a moral concern, but that is for me to express. You have certain freedoms. This is not about a kid who seems to be gay. That's not the issue here. First of all, way too young to know about someone's sexuality anyway, but that's not what it's about. It's a child who's acting like a child and maybe wants to dress up, and these idiot parents, and that's what they are, but they're worse than that, actually. And the child should be removed. The state should intervene and remove this child from these parents. It's not going to happen, though. He's been on the show before, Robert John. That's not your actual name, but there are some people who are extremely nasty and rude and even threatening towards you. We've used the term former transsexual. It sounds rather cold and clinical, but you went through all of the surgery and the procedures.
That's correct.
And then decided this is ridiculous. I'm a man.
That's right. Yeah, because all of a sudden I realized all my life that no matter what I did to myself surgically, hormonally, and clothes, that I was still my biological sex. That really it was all essentially vanity.
Really?
That Yes, really. You're just essentially dressing up and surgically, it's a crass term, but looking at it, it's called surgical drag. You're dressing up, having operations and hormones, and you're legally identifying yourself as somebody, as what they've done under our law, political correctness. But the problem is I discovered I had a soul. Maybe too early or too late in my life, but to realize that it wasn't the truth. And
how young were you when you felt, or others around you felt, that although you were a little boy, you were actually a girl?
Well, I started, it was way back then in the 60s, of course, it was virtually unknown.
Yeah.
And I always saw myself, I was kind of teased for being a sissy. And I had a brother that was much more, he was an achiever, he was far more intelligent. Seemingly far more intelligent. He advanced in school, and I was a struggler. I wasn't very good. I was uncoordinated in sports, and so I started feeling really inferior. And in fact, my parents had taken me for counseling at the time because I was feeling out of place.
Okay.
And but I was secretly, of course, at the time, I was dressing up, and of course, in shame, literally in the old closet there. I guess it was. I look back on it, it was really almost like an escapism. Where I thought, well...
So you would privately, secretly, you were dressing up
privately,
in...
Yeah, of course, we could never...
Your mum's or your sister's clothes?
My mum's, yeah, I didn't have any...
Did your parents find out?
Not till I told them many, many years later. And because there's that whole shame thing, and it just wasn't talked about. I mean, there's been such an upheaval in the last... Well, during my lifetime, especially in the last 20, 25 years.
Right.
Whereas...
Now, in this case, this is a little boy with male genitalia. It's a boy.
That's right.
And the parents gave him traditionally feminine or female toys, masculine toys, which he rejected. Okay, big deal. And instead of maybe saying, well, you play with whatever you want to play with, or they've encouraged him and then dressed him as a girl. They've grown his hair to look feminine.
Yes.
Goodness knows what else has gone on. At the kindergarten, I can imagine the sort of kindergarten, they've said, yes, we'll treat him as a girl. Goes to a real school, and the school have said, well, his genitalia are growing now. It's a boy, and we can't let him use the girls' room because there are girls there. And instead of saying, yes, that seems an entirely reasonable point, they're suing the school.
Yes. I saw, and unfortunately, you've got these other grievance mongers, too, that are actually cooperating with this madness instead of getting to the root of it, because I'm convinced that this whole thing of dressing up is only the surface. Yeah. I believe this boy probably has similar issues to what I had. There's something, it's not an organic condition in itself. There's more going on, and you need to have a proper evaluation. There was no, I know, looking at what was available, from the press release and all that stuff, there was nothing whether the child has been properly evaluated medically. Is there some kind of medical condition going on? Especially too in these cases, there could be cases of, I don't know, it seemed emotional distress that is making this child act in this way.
But you know what happens if you suggest at any stage it could be emotional distress, it could be confusion, it could be a mental health challenge. You're accused of being transphobic and a fascist, and there are now these psychiatrists around, and their entire practice is based on this. So all of their income and prestige and status is based on saying, yes, you are going through gender confusion, identity, or whatever. And they will always say yes. They're never going to say, no, I'm sorry. You just need to get out more. I'm sorry, that sounds flippant, but they will never challenge the person because that destroys everything that they are.
Yeah, exactly. And what I found, I more or less had my transition handed to me on a silver platter, if you will, because I had public sector employment, I had a very powerful public union advocacy, so I had lots of money security, and even, of course, the reassignment surgery was paid for by our government. And yet, something happened to me. I was initially euphoric, but as time went on, I was increasingly awkward because I'm 6'2", and I wasn't as heavy at the time, but I was always afraid. Instead of resolving my problems were becoming amplified.
But I've seen the comments section and so on all the websites and the nasty things that people say. The argument will be, well, yes, in your case that may be, but there are people who do have the surgery and they're happy.
Well, I think that's superficial, because I used to know a lot of people. They may be externally happy, are saying that, but I've known many that seem they have careers, they might have their own houses and that, but they're not happy people inside. Yeah. It's like they're always like the fugitive on the run. You know, you remember the old television series and movie? Because you're always afraid that somebody's going to know your secret. And
it's troubling and challenging as an adult. In this case, though,
as a child, yes, it's very...
If someone who... If they didn't give their child the right formation, and I'm trying to think of the ways, in almost every way, if they refuse to give their child the right formation, there could be state intervention. And they certainly wouldn't be approved of publicly. In this case, they have said to a little boy, "You're a girl."
That's right.
And they're getting public support and media support. Yes. And you know, children, as I said in the monologue, this began when this little boy was tiny, 3, 4 years old. You wait for Santa Claus to come December 25th. You believe in the Easter Bunny. You'll believe anything you're told. If you say, this is why it's so dangerous when you have extremism. Hitler was a great man. The Holocaust didn't happen. Exactly. The children will believe this at this age. They're saying, yeah, you are a girl. We're going to raise you as a girl. And nothing is happening to the parents, but instead they're saying to the school, every parent and every child and every teacher at the school has to change according to their dysfunction.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. We just had that case a while back here in Ontario where the girl wants to be a boy and won the right to use the boys' washroom. Yeah. And the problem is, though, nature, this boy is going to develop as a boy. And then at what age are they going to start to decide, oh, we're going to put them on hormones or start operating on them to stop it? And even if they do, what if the child, I mean, I saw some pictures of him, I can't tell, what if he grows up to be 6'5" and starts growing as a boy, his voice is going to drop, and going on into this confusion. And as I say, they're ignoring established medical evidence. Yeah. I mean, there's an abundance of it, and it's being suppressed. And we have to ask ourselves, as intelligent human beings, why? Why can't we discuss this? If we truly love people, we have to stand for truth.
Yeah, the metaphorical Pandora's box here, it's been opened and all sorts of things are coming out. And I suppose that's not the phrase to use, but maybe it is the phrase to use. You're very brave. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be able to have a place to talk about the truth.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.